So if you got a question,
What
by
was
all
in the
means,
letter
go ahead.
to Governor DeSantis and the DEP? Were you just looking to express your opinion about it, or were you looking for specific answers from the governor and DEP on it?
Oh, I think there's some very specific answers that need to come out. Just number one, from that list, is this a wheel that is already in motion? That being said, okay, there was some kind of request for proposal that went out, and there was a notice of a public comment period. Is that wheel just in motion and can't be grounded to a halt by the governor saying, hey, this will not happen, we will not move it forward, and there will be no public comment at all on this because it's just not going to exist at all? Same question to FDEP again. We haven't heard a response, so I hope that we hear a response or responding to both of those questions or another.
Ultimately, what would you like
Paul.
to see happen to Jonathan Dickinson State Park, even if you get all the answers you're seeking?
You know, Jonathan Dickinson State Park, beautiful last reservoir of wilderness that we have in this area. Maybe you could say as we get further north here, you got the savannas. That's another area of just untouched wilderness that we have. We are a community that sees extensive development from the coast to Lake Okeechobee, from north to south. We don't need every single spot developed. Sometimes we just like an open space or an untouched space, and you know, it's nice to have that too. So that would be the expectation. Just respect that area for what it is, a place that people like to walk through, or they like to go to the observation tower. If you want to help something out there, why don't you help the people that are trying to, you know, repair the steps on the observation tower or something else like that? Whatever that is done there, whether it's an observation tower or anything else, I would absolutely encourage the state to recognize the hornet's nest that you kicked here and realize that anything that you want to do there, you better do a very serious effort in asking the community their opinion on it. Not to say that it's not open to everybody in the state. It is. It's a state park. It's open to everybody, but we are most affected in this community. So ask the community what the community wants, and you will often and usually very resoundingly get an answer from this community about what the community wants. Yeah, I'm familiar with the group Folds of Honor. They're a veteran-centric organization. I couldn't tell you the extent to which they operate nationally or even across the state of Florida. I can tell you that I know that they exist. That's really the extent to which I can say it. I don't know, and this is another important question I think to be answered. My understanding is they said they're withdrawing their offer to be a participant in this request for proposal, this RFP. That doesn't mean that there's not somebody else that can't come in that is more unscrupulous and say, well, I don't care what the community wants. I'll still go over there and put a par 5 across the park. We don't care about that. So that's where we really need that definitive answer. Are we done with par 5s across the state park, or can somebody else come in and offer that? And again, I think the community is owed a very, very direct answer on that, because there are, I'm sure, tens of thousands of people that are ready to show up for a public comment to the whatever the voting power is that would be for that, to say, hey, listen, this is our opinion on it. This is the question that I have on that. You owe me an answer, and you owe listening to what my opinion is. So your question about investigating something in Tallahassee, that certainly goes to state level government, right? Your state representatives, your state senators, Gail Harrell, John Snyder, Toby Overdorf in this area to look into that. One of the requests that I made as part of an investigation process, if you want to call it that, was to say we called for all of the what falls under sunshine law in the state of Florida to say, listen, we want to know for the 7 to 10 board members that are a part of the Acquisition and Restoration Council, what was the correspondence related to this, whether in email, whether in physical letter, whether in carrier pigeon, whether in phone call, whatever it was. We want to know what that correspondence was about it. That's the first thing that we called for a couple of days ago, just as part of trying to understand where this is coming from, where this is going. Look, there's a lot of let's say, call them committees, that I probably couldn't even tell you that they exist. I wouldn't even pretend. I don't work in Tallahassee. It's rare that I'm in Tallahassee. And so I'm sure there's many that I could tell you basically nothing about. But when the community mobilized on this, look, for me, that's always the thing that I say. I'm willing to charge into a battlefield. I'm very physically and metaphorically willing to charge into a battlefield. But if I'm going to charge into a battlefield, I'm going to make sure that I have a plan to win the fight. And so that is, as soon as we heard about this, when Tampa Bay Times broke it, I said, okay, who is this under? Number one, it's under Florida Department of Environmental Protection. Reached out to the FDEP secretary. He got on the phone with me. I'm going to say somewhere within 8 to 10 hours. We were speaking on the phone saying, what are you doing? what is the plan for this? What can you tell me about this? If you have any questions about that, happy to answer anything about what I was told on it. And then once they told me what the deal was with it, that's where I formulated my personal, what was my assessment for the best plan of attack, which was to say there's a voting body on this, Acquisition and Restoration Council. They weren't planning on being present on what would be today, on what would be, I don't know, probably coming up in about an hour and a half or so. And so we said, let's make sure everybody has their contact information, because if you care about this, write them an email, write them a letter, write them a whatever, telling them you can't vote without actually hearing from us. That's a garbage process. And so that was the fight that we wanted to put forward. And then beyond that, saying, what's the sunshine laws under this? What have you said? What correspondence have you had about this from today right up until 6 months or 6 years ago? It doesn't matter. We want to know what it was, and have some transparency on it. Everybody has own transparency on it. That's good governance. If you don't have transparency, then that's middle finger governance. So.
Yeah, just one more question, Congressman. So Senator Harrell has talked about putting guidelines in place and bringing this to make sure that this can't happen in the future. Yes. Is there anything that can be done on the federal level to ensure that this can't happen to our state parks?
I don't know that there's something specifically that could be done on the federal side relating to the local jurisdiction. Power should come from the bottom up, right? From the federal government answering to the state government, the states answering to the local municipalities, answering everybody ultimately from the people. It should go from the bottom up in that way. That's the way that our country was designed. That's the way that we, the people, is supposed to have their voice heard. And so in that, I can't say that the federal government could put that mandate on the state. And I don't know that the state would want that mandate. You might go into another community and they might say, listen, we want more parking spaces for, I don't know, pop-up campers or something like that. And they don't want the federal government involved in it. That's up to each state, each municipality to go out there and make that. That's good governance in my opinion. So.
Can you talk about communication you may have had directly with Governor DeSantis on this topic,
Absolutely.
and if so, his response?
Yeah, absolutely. I have not literally spoken to Governor DeSantis on the phone or via Zoom or anything. I've made a number of requests of the governor's office and the FDEP office, but to reiterate what I said already, I have not heard literally any response from either of those offices, aside from what I just spoke about, speaking to the FDEP secretary within about, I don't know, like I said, 8 to 10 hours of finding out what was going on with this. Aside from that, no contact since making any kinds of requests. So.
All right. One last in the back, and finish with you, ma'am.
Hi, Congressman.
Yes, ma'am.
Nice to see you again. I saw you Saturday.
Good to see you.
Say no.
So.
But my question is, do you support the protection for the Florida scrub jay? And question 2, what do you know about the Hilton Hotel involvement in all this?
I couldn't tell you anything about a Hilton Hotel involvement. You saying that is literally the first time I've heard those two words combined with Jonathan Dickinson State Park, if that's what you're combining it with. Look, whether we're talking about protecting a scrub jay or protecting a gopher tortoise or protecting our manatee out here in the water or the sawfish or take your pick of things, we protect our environment here. I always say it with water policy. If I don't put it in the bathtub with my kids, I don't want it in any of our waterways. And that goes to our parks too. When you think about these golf courses, the chemicals that run off of them, the fertilizer, the nutrients, everything else that is done to make them look the way people that are playing golf want them to look. Well, that's not the way that we that just want to enjoy the park want them to look. It's not good for the environment there. So, I guess to reiterate it again, not for it, and we'll continue to be in the fight, and we'll kind of end with just a thank you to you all again. Today, being a public comment period, quote unquote, what was supposed to be, that didn't come to an end without literally all of your voices on social media, making emails to all of those 7 to 10 board members of the Acquisition and Restoration Council. Well, I could have stood out on the road in front of Jonathan Dickinson State Park for 10 days in a row. Nobody in Tallahassee would have given a hoot, but they absolutely care that all of you were out there in that fight, making your voice known every single day. Couldn't be more proud of every single one of you. You all are absolutely awesome, and look forward to mixing it up with y'all down the hill where I guess everybody's meandering to. So see y'all down there. Thank you. Appreciate it.